Okay, that was my most favorite pastor, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, and we're going to keep using a lot of his commentaries because I feel that not only are they inspirational, but he's hitting some points that need to be hit on. Now, some things he just said here. All right, there was legalized slavery before Lincoln. Blacks, he said, blacks were defined as people with no rights to be respected by any whites anywhere. You know about the Dred Scott decision. It was the government's official position on keeping things segregated. Things have, over the years, gotten better. Or are you saying that things were less corrupt back then, and the government has gotten better, but we're more corrupt now?
Oh, by all means, I would never say that the government in Lincoln's day is any less corrupt than it is now. People misunderstand Lincoln in many ways. He was a very totalitarian leader at the time, and he imprisoned members of Congress who opposed him. During one of the draft incidents, I believe in New York, he called in troops to actually fire upon American citizens who were rioting against this unjust draft because, of course, your rich were able to buy their way out of the draft. Also, people believe that the Civil War was started over slavery, but that is false. Lincoln made it very clear as the Civil War started that this was not, I repeat, not about slavery and not about freeing any slaves. It was not until several years into the Civil War, when things weren't going so well and the North was looking to pull out of the war, that Lincoln said, hey, I need something to turn the political tide here, because also there were foreign powers that were ready to jump in and support the South. So that's when he came up with the Emancipation Proclamation, which didn't free anybody. All it said was in the new Western territories, there'd be no slavery. But internationally, it sent the signal that now the Civil War was about freedom. But it was not started that way. It became about freeing slaves only when it became politically expedient for Lincoln.
I forget what leader said that blacks have always been used as a pawn
All citizens have been used as pawns. Blacks were especially singled out because we look different. That's all there is. I mean, but if you examine racism, I mean, it knows no color. I mean, you'll have people who will, a German who will disparage a Polish man or an Irishman. It makes no sense. I mean, this division is completely ridiculous. Racism is a straw man issue tossed to the citizenry so we can be divided and fight amongst ourselves over nothing.
So, with Reverend Wright's observation, were you with him? I mean, do you feel that he's accurate in his assessment of? I mean, the way that especially the way that he was talking about how God does not change. I guess he was implying that as long as you're have a strong faith in God and in yourself, that you'll pull yourself through this.
Yes, I mean, if I would make any correction to Reverend Wright's statements, I would say to leave out the political and racial rhetoric. Just leave it alone. There's no rational thought to be devised from political thought. It won't happen.
How do you mean that?
Politics are ridiculous. It is based on lies and deception. It is based on drawing a consensus by any means necessary. It is rarely based on honesty. It is rarely based on service. So to adhere to such a system, believing that there will be any change, is true insanity. We need our government to be removed and replaced.
With what?
With a new system that will be governed by people, not by those who would enslave us and take advantage of us. We need a change, certainly, but the change will be the removal of our ruling system. It will have to start locally. Our local city council does not know how to govern. They're out of control. They're not interested in preserving the rights of its citizens. They're only interested in restricting the rights of its citizens. This is not the role of a government. This is not the life of a free people.
What we have to we have to keep ourselves and put in perspective of the way others are living around the world. Since you have to have laws to maintain the rules and order and that type of thing, to avoid chaos. And it's still pretty much a fact that, to an extent, the more education you have, your better chances of employability. The seeds of the American dream are still there, although there's a lot of educated people who are homeless.
The American dream is called a dream because a person would have to be sleeping to believe it.
But folks are still coming to America in pursuit of that.
Certainly. There are opportunities in America. America is still, and our world is still, a beautiful place. It is a place of great wonder and beauty. Our media, our news media, has distorted this. Our news media would have us believe that there are murders happening all the time and that our children are in constant peril. But this is not true. This is part of the government plan to keep us in fear. We must remove these shackles of fear. And as the Reverend says, God does not change. God is constant. And God gives us the power that's already within us. We don't even have to look to the heavens. Power is within us. What we need to do is understand that God is love, and that His Son Jesus is the gift of life eternal. And then we also have the Holy Spirit, which is understanding. So therefore, many of the concepts of man, which are very confusing and bewildering, we're able to leave those behind because we will compel the Holy Spirit for understanding. And the Holy Spirit will guide us, where we will not need the confusion of the man's mind to guide us.
But we'll still need to be able to fix the roads, and when there's volcanoes going off and destroying towns, and you have to have a government in place.
We need to have a system in place, and we need to react to emergencies, certainly, do things to prevent these things. And a government itself is not bad. An honest government run by rational people would be ideal. That is not what we have. The system that we have that's set up by the Constitution is not perfect, but it's quite good in theory, on paper, but it's never been practiced. But a rational government run by rational people using the tenets of the United States Constitution could be beautiful, but we have not seen that. And President-elect Barack Obama will not show that to us. Here's a man who believes that Iran is a grave threat. He believes that we should stay in Iraq. He believes that we should boost troops in Afghanistan. He believes that we should be able to use Pakistan as a war zone. He's quite mad, but he's a product of the Trilateral Commission. He's Rockefeller's sock puppet. The Rockefellers have their hand up through the back and through the mouth of this man to direct what he says and what he does.
Well, I mean, now, I've been watching them very closely, and I've seen other people who have been programmed, by, saying things for people, whether they be announcers or radio talk show hosts, that type of thing. And Obama is so spontaneous that he has to, in his own heart, believe and feel the things that he's saying.
I cannot say what is in this man's heart, but his choices for his cabinet speak volumes. Rahm Emanuel? Are you kidding me? This man is a classic Zionist. This is his chief of staff. Barack Obama has been mired in corruption, and it will catch up with him.